Hey everyone, Evan Jones with you here on the RPAC Rundown podcast. I've been on vacation for a few days, so it's a little bit more of a condensed episode, but still a lot of good information in this pod. We'll go through the 3 nights of RPAC Rundown featured matchups we had last week. We are also over halfway through the winter sports season and got a few things to discuss. I guess you could say just some thoughts I've had so far this season. Finally, Athletes of the Week brought to you by First Central Bank, also in the episode. As always, check us out on social media and rpacrundown.com. Of course, the RPAC Rundown podcast is brought to you by a bunch of great sponsors like Arapahoe Rehab and Fitness, Cambridge Supermarket, Webb's Oilfield Service, Cambridge Rehab and Fitness, Onyx Native, and C+. We'll take a break and then go through the featured matchups. You're listening to the RPAC Rundown podcast. Last Tuesday on January 7th, we made the trip up to Wallace for a matchup between the Wildcats and the Medicine Valley Raiders. Wallace won the girls matchup and Medicine Valley took the boys matchup on the basketball court. Let's begin with the girls game. It was a tight one all the way down to the wire, but Wallace won 40-35. Ashley Robertson and Kaylee Sauser led the Wildcats with 9 points. Reagan Finley added 8 for Medicine Valley. They were led by Remy Stout with 17 points, 7 rebounds, 5 steals, and 5 blocks. A great game for her. Oakley Stout had 8 points and 11 rebounds. Haley Gustafson had 6 points and 9 rebounds. In the boys' game, Medicine Valley used a strong first half to create space and beat Wallace 47-32. For Wallace, Jason Fisher had 10 points, Colt Franklin added 6, and Mason Messersmith had 5. Medicine Valley was led by Brody Semps, 15 points. Lucas Einspar had 14, and Tice Pate added 8. This RPAC Rundown featured matchup was brought to you by Midwest Ag Products, Dayspring Bank, and Midwest Auto Sales and Service. Let's take a break and then discuss our featured matchups from January 9th when Bertrand faced Southern Valley. On Thursday, January 9th, it was an RPAC East battle as Bertrand hosted Southern Valley for a girls and boys doubleheader. The teams split the games as Southern Valley won the girls matchup and the boys went to Bertrand. In the girls game, it was very close for a good chunk of the first half, but eventually Southern Valley used their pressure defense and got some shots to fall and took the game 57-24. For Bertrand, they were led by Brooklyn Evans, who scored 8 points. Addie Anderson had 5, and Caitlin Evans and Shelby Shaney each had 4. Livia Phillips had 3. Southern Valley had 3 players in double figures as Addie Hunt scored 16, Bryn Bailey had 13, and Vanessa Aguayo pitched in with 11. Tori Bowes added 9. In the boys' game, it was a game of runs. Bertrand created a big lead in the first, then Southern Valley got close in the fourth, but eventually the Vikings pulled away and won 60-33. Tyler Grove led Southern Valley with 19 points, and Isaac Hamilton had 6. Bertrand had a nice offensive output from several players. Thunder Nelson scored 26, Marcus Hernandez had 15, and Caden Hatfield scored 7. This RPAC Rundown featured matchup was brought to you by Hammond Hay Grinding, C+, Evans Repair, and Holdridge Family Dental. We'll take another short break and then our final featured matchups from last week as Cambridge and Southwest battled on Friday, January 10th. Southwest made the short 8-mile trek to Cambridge on Friday evening for some matchups on the hardwood. In the girls' game, it was Southwest who won. In the boys' matchup, Cambridge came away with the victory. For the girls' matchup, top 5 rated Southwest was able to take down Cambridge 56-19. Elizabeth Kubik led Cambridge with 5 points. Brooklyn Holtz had 4, and Mallory Springer scored 4. Southwest was led by Aspen Billiter with 16 points. Kira Nelms had 13. Anastasia Gallegos had 8, Allison Van Pelt scored 7, and Atlee Nelms had 6. In the boys' game, it was a matchup in which Cambridge was able to get a big lead. Then Southwest, they climbed back into it. But Cambridge's offense behind 42 points from Brady Allmeyer was too much, and the Trojans won 76-56. to 65. Southwest had an excellent performance on their side too, as Houston Billiter scored 32. For Southwest, like we said, Billiter had 32 points and made 6 3-pointers. Jacob Barber had 10 points, and Trenton Williams had 7. Cambridge was led by Brady Allmeyer with 42 points, just shy of the Cambridge school record held by Paxton Ross of 46 points. He also had 3 rebounds and 4 assists. Hodge Rayburn scored 11 and had 9 rebounds. Maverick Webb had 10 points, 5 assists, and 4 steals. Braden Miller and Creighton Ruggles were important on the glass too, as they had 7 and 9 rebounds respectively. This RPAC Rundown featured matchup was brought to you by Waypoint Bank in Cambridge, Webb's Oilfield Service, Amateurs Bar and Grill, Onyx Native, Cambridge Rehab and Fitness, Hilltop Seeds, Lord's Hardware and Furniture, Red Roof Farms, and JBK Operating, LLC. We'll take a short break. Be right back. You're listening to the RPAC Rundown Podcast. Welcome back to the RPAC Rundown Podcast. Evan Jones with you here, as I am every week. We're over halfway through the winter sports season. Have a few things to discuss, I guess you could say. Just some thoughts that I've had so far this season. If there's something you feel like that I've left out, I'm sorry. But when I was mulling things over, these were just some things that stuck out to me so far this season. Let's begin with girls basketball. RPAC tournament's coming up. It starts next Friday, the 24th. We're fired up about it. Looking on the east side first, I do think it is pretty open. I think you do have favorites with Southern Valley, Southwest, and Alma, but don't count out a team like Arapahoe, who's been playing really well. They're super scrappy on defense. So yeah, it could be very interesting on the east side. Some really solid teams. And you could say the same thing on the west side, really. Maywood Hayes Center, they look like the favorite. They kind of look like the team to beat. But Dundee County Stratton, small roster, but they are very good. They play really hard. Hitchcock County, teams like Paxton also could make some noise in the tournament. Like I said, the tournament begins next Friday. We're excited to say the least. Now for girls wrestling, Southwest, they've been incredible. Some great finishes as a team. They have a number of wrestlers who I think will make state. I can't wait to see what they do. You know, if they do get a number of wrestlers down to state, that's about a month away, which is crazy to think. It's been really fun to see how Southwest has competed. Also, for Sutherland, their girls wrestling program too, I'll be interested to see how many they can get down state. They've got a good core, so it'll be interesting to see how the Sailors can fare as districts approach and things like that. And then Alma, they've got a big team, and I'll be really interested to see how that program continues to grow in their first year. A number of girls went out for wrestling, and that's great to start out for their first year. So now for boys wrestling, conference meet next Saturday in Cambridge. The best way I can say it, it's going to be electric. Like I said, it's going to be in Cambridge. It'll be a good atmosphere, a lot of people there. Last year at Dundee County Stratton, it was great. That's a small, loud gym, of course, and it was loud, and I expect it to be loud at Cambridge again this year. It'll be a lot of fun. Between the additions of Highline and Sutherland to the conference this year, and then you got Alma, Arapahoe, Cambridge, Southern Valley, and other teams within the conference, I think it's going to be very fun, very competitive next week. So really looking forward to that. The wrestling season's been really fun to track so far this year. Now for boys basketball, it's a lot like the girls. RPAC tournament coming up next week, like we said. Things are wide open, I feel like. On the East, Alma appears to be the favorite, but I really like what I've seen from Bertrand and what they're doing as of late. They play really intense defense. They're getting good shots. They have a number of players who can get a bucket. They rebound well, and you can say the same thing about Alma. They do a really good job of sharing the rock. They rebound well, and they play solid defense. So also on the East, you know, Cambridge could be a dark horse when they are hitting their shots. They are very tough to beat. And then also some nights Highline, they can be really tough. They have length. They have a couple of scores. So it'll be interesting to see on that east side who does come out. Alma's probably the favorite, but don't be surprised if Bertrand makes a run, because that's kind of what they do every year is they make a run. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes on the east side. For the West, it's Dundee County, Stratton, Hitchcock County. They look like the favorites. Of course, Hitchcock County recently beat Dundee County, Stratton. But Maywood Hayes Center and Paxton look like they are a tough out too. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting as the tournament comes up. That'll begin on Friday for the girls, boys on Saturday. We're really excited about it. a lot of great coverage coming for the RPAC tournaments, both wrestling and basketball. So we're fired up, excited about it. We'll take one more break, then it's time to announce the RPAC Rundown Athletes of the Week, brought to you by First Central Bank. Welcome back. It's time to announce the RPAC Rundown Athletes of the Week, brought to you by First Central Bank. Let's plan for tomorrow together. First Central Bank, member FDIC. Our female athlete of the week goes to Kira Nelms of Southwest. She had a great week. She had 10 points, 4 rebounds in the Rough Riders win over Hitchcock County, 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists in their win over Cambridge, and 25 points and 12 rebounds in their win over Juanita Palisades. So a solid stretch of games there for Kira Nelms of Southwest. Our male athlete of the week goes to Brady Allmeyer of Cambridge. In the Trojans win over Southwest last week, he had a monster game, posting 42 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists. He was very efficient, 13 for 23 from the field, 5 for 10 from three-point range, and 11 for 13 from the free throw line. Once again, the RPAC Rundown Athletes of the Week are brought to you by First Central Bank, member FDIC. That will do it for this week's episode of the podcast. Of course, we have so many great sponsors of the podcast, like JBK Operating LLC, Scouts Recreation, First Central Bank, Cross Diamond Cattle Company, Tri-Valley Medical Foundation, and Prairie Girl Candle Company. So many thanks to all of our great sponsors. That'll do it for this week's episode of the pod. Thanks for tuning in.